All right. Um,
Just ignore it.
so, Matt, can you give us an introduction of who you are and where you are in your life currently?
Talofa, my name is Mateo Whakite Maleto Brown. Everyone just calls me Matt Brown. But currently I reside here in Otutahi. We have, my wife and I own a few barbershops around the Motu.
Awesome.
But we started a kaupapa called She's Not Your Rehab. And it's kind of birthed out from my story, my upbringing.
Yeah.
Of
Which we'll get into.
Which we will get into.
Yeah, awesome.
But where I'm at now in my life is just a dream come true.
Really?
To really marry the best friend of the love of my life.
Yeah.
And to have 3 beautiful children. Changing the narrative.
Awesome.
So I'm happy. I'm blessed.
That's awesome. And what makes you want to share your story with CWK on the Let Me Speak campaign today?
I'm honoured to be a part of this kaupapa. We love you. Just through obviously you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and you're just real. And I think real recognise real, and we just love your authenticity, just the realness that you bring. And so, man, just honoured to be part of this kaupapa. And I think, the mahi that we do, we walk alongside people who are traumatised, people who have perpetrated violence,
Yeah.
victims who have also received, been on the other end of that trauma. And what you talk about, your platform, the realness of it, all of it, it's just,
Awesome.
it aligns with us. And so,
That's awesome, right? And where does your journey begin?
my journey, I was born in South Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau.
Whereabouts?
Up in Green Lane. I was born in Green
Oh,
Lane.
yeah.
But we lived up in Mangere. But I moved down to Christchurch when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
3 years old, Dad got out of jail after doing a long stint inside. And the reason they put him inside was an altercation at a pub, at a bar. And so that was the last time my father drank in public. And so when Dad got out of prison, he decided to move down. He got offered a job down here in Christchurch. Moved down here, I was 3. There's 9 of us siblings, all up. I'm the 3rd youngest. And so it was kind of culture shock. We were culture shocked when we moved down to Christchurch.
Oh, I bet.
It was different. Everyone looked different. No one looked like us. And so, because Dad was inside for a long time, that was the last time because of the incident that he went through, that was the last time he drank in public.
Okay.
And so because he never done the work to heal properly, or get better, and being stuck in the system, he just and with no help, he just, home life, he just drank at home. And so you can only imagine the what came out of that, which was my upbringing. And
so behind closed doors
being a Samoan, in New Zealand, we go to church every Sunday, put on your best clothes, best suits, and then Monday to Saturday was the film Once We're Warriors.
Wow.
And it was just normal, we didn't know any difference. When that film came out, I was 10 years old. We sat down and watched it when they played it on TV. I think it came out when I was 8, but it came on TV when we were 10. And me and my siblings, we watched that film and we just laughed through the entire film. We thought it was a comedy because we would compare Becky's black eyes to my mum's. And we were just, it's nothing compared to what mum went through, as kids. But the fact that we were laughing at it at a young age was just, that was
says a lot.
Yeah, we were so desensitized to violence. We would wake up 3 o'clock in the morning to hearing my mother getting the shit bashed out of her. My first memory of domestic violence and how it felt was the age of 3. I remember my dad grabbing the Christmas tree and beating the shit out of my mum with it. Christmas meant to be a happy season.
Yeah.
That was my first experience. And so, my older brothers, kids themselves.
Do you remember how you felt at that moment?
Scared. I felt fucking scared, fearful. If I could sum up my childhood in one word, I would use the word unsafe.
Yeah.
Unsafe. It was unsafe to have an opinion. It was unsafe to think. It was unsafe to talk. Being me, Matt Brown, was unsafe. And so from there, I spent my whole life putting on these masks or trying to be someone or put on this facade to try and survive. Because everyone at school in good old Otutahi, you know, no one talked about this stuff. No one talked about domestic violence or the shit that was happening at home. And you know, we would walk to school and police cars would be at our house every day.
Do you feel like you didn't talk about it with anyone at school and that because of shame or that it was shame?
I believe, not to generalise, but in a lot of Pacific communities, we use shame as a discipline, humiliation as a discipline.
Yeah.
So that was vital throughout my upbringing. I remember, I talk about it in a book that we're releasing. Humiliation was so entrenched in my family, in our whānau. I remember being stripped naked from the age of 5, I remember, from memory, and being laughed at just because my body didn't look the same as my older brothers or my other siblings.
And who did that to you?
My parents.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just here. I remember whenever the cousins would come over and I'll hear my name being called out, bring Matt here, and I knew that I was in for humiliation, to be humiliated. I became the laughing stock of the family. And so, yeah, it's fucked up.
How did that even happen?
Just because that. Sadly, and I don't mean to generalise, but in my whānau, in my family, that was the human. Dehumanising someone to the point where
Dehumanising, yeah.
the shame was just, and so, yeah, that for me, I didn't turn to the drugs, but I just shut down.
Yeah.
I shut down, I linked into music. I found music to be my saviour, but I was so suicidal. Suicidal was like a companion of mine that just never left me. The thought was always there. I would find myself sleeping in train tracks, you know, hoping the train would come and set me free from a young age.
Oh, wow. Did you have anyone that you could have spoken to, or did you try?
I did
to
eventually.
speak?
I reached out to a youth leader when I was 15, and so that's what I left home at 15. But growing up, like when you're a kid now, no one to speak to.
Are you probably scared?
Scared, but also ashamed.
Yeah.
I remember one of my older siblings spoke out. He went swimming at school, and obviously teachers seen the bruises on his body, and then they called in SIFs.
Yeah.
And he got taken away, and but from that experience alone, you know, I never wanted to speak up.
Yeah.
Because even him, with my older sibling had been taken away from the system and then put in another home, he was so used to the violence at home, he missed it. Like, we missed him and he missed us. Even though he was more safe now, but we were just so used to...
Because you have come to be content in that.
It was just, it was so normal.
And when you talk about being suicidal, was that from having to grow up like that, or
having to grow up
just
like that, just longing to be seen, longing to be understood, longing to be known, and just felt alone, so alone.
When was the pivotal moment that you knew that is fucking wrong? Because I know being in that for a prolonged period of time, that becomes the norm. So anything outside of that is weird. So was there ever a moment that you were like, oh, hold up, fuck, nah, this is fucked up? Or did you just know the whole time that was fucked up?
I just knew the whole time. Like, I think, like, it was so twisted, but I knew this wasn't right. Like, I just knew it wasn't right because obviously growing up in Christchurch, you know, the only brown people you've seen on TV were the All Blacks. And so you were always compared to, you know, that was brown excellence. And for me, because I wasn't physically, you know, of that stature, hip hop was the thing that I resonated with. And so it was all these rappers and MCs across the world who were talking about their pain, but successful, you know, and living this dream life. Yeah. You know, talking about their pain. But for me, it was that resonated with me, and so that's why I kind of found music
as an outlet.
That was my outlet. That was my outlet. You know, all my boys were doing drugs, selling, incarcerated, like all this stuff. And so for me, it was just all around me. I'd seen this cycle just repeat everywhere. And I just felt alone. I just felt, why am I not wanting to pick up a joint or pick up a, so I never touched alcohol until I was in my mid-20s. But that's how I was just so in my own space. In my own
And what happened when you were 15 and you said you moved out?
So I moved out of home, moved into a boys' home. It was, all had similar stories to me.
Did you have to move out at 15 or?
I moved out at 15 because I was so, just in a lot of pain, suicidal. And so I reached out to a youth leader,
Oh yeah.
a social worker, and he came and picked me up and he just took me to Burger King. And we just had corridor, we just had that kano, he get the kano, he face to face.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the first time I felt heard, listened to.
Hey,
Yeah.
that youth worker.
Just that youth worker, just taking me out. And so I remember the day I left home, I packed my bags and my parents came home from mahi. And I remember my mum putting a machete to my neck and said, "You're not leaving, you leave, I'm out, it's your life." And I just cried there, my eyes are rolling. It's pretty much over, Mum. Do your thing. And then Mum just broke down and cried too. And I think in her heart she realised that, she had failed.
Yeah.
And then it was a thing, by the age of 10, we had lived in every woman's refuge home here in Christchurch. It was our normality, to wake up and we're on the move again, or wake up at 3 o'clock hearing your mum getting smashed, and just say to your brother next to you, like, "Oh, they're at it again," and you just go back to sleep. Like countless memories of mum getting the shit beaten out of her, yet no one ever stepped in or did anything.
Did you wonder why she stayed in there?
I would always ask her, like, "Mum, why did you choose to keep going back to him?
Yeah.
Like, we know you love him, but we don't want to see you dead." And her response was always simple and the same. She didn't believe in divorce, and she didn't have any other options. She didn't believe she could do it by herself.
Yeah.
And so, Mum, women of today have many more options than, women back then.
Back then, yeah.
And it's come at a cost, women have fought for that. And so, it's been hard, Mum just did. I've come to accept that Mum did what she could to survive.
Yeah.
Like, my mum was a survivor. But she's my queen, and sadly she passed away in December last year to cancer. But that was the feeling of the powerlessness that we couldn't save our mum from the abusive relationship she lived in.
Yeah.
And then when cancer took her life, we still couldn't fucking save her.
Yeah, out of your control.
So that powerlessness as a kid, all resurfaced.
Yeah.
But it's cool, I've just been navigating through that mum life.
Yeah. And when you moved out and you went to that boys' home, what was that like?
It was a religious home. It was my safe place. I learned a lot from there, but there was a lot of shit there that I didn't. There was things I take away from that home that are awesome, relationships, good learning things that I learned as a young boy. But there's also a lot of toxic stuff.
Hey.
A lot of toxic stuff, and so I left there. I left there just trying to find more answers, But for me, I struggled with, because I'd been my first experience of sexual abuse was at the age of 3. I remember, I'll never forget another man's private parts on me at that age. That was by one of my older brother's friends.
Oh, fuck.
Who was only a kid himself. He would have been 8. And so there, to then being abused by an uncle. If there was anyone in the movie Once We're Warriors that I related to the most, was Grace.
Grace.
It was Grace. But yeah, imagine...
Again, another situation that's
Yeah.
out of your control.
Out of my control as a
Yeah.
kid, being raped by a family member, to then wake up and him jump onto your little brother and do him.
Fuck.
And this fucking cycle it's so prevalent in our communities. But yeah, that abuse. So for a long time, I thought I had this glued on my forehead, touch me, break me.
Yeah.
Because I was just that quiet kid. I was just such a shutdown boy, and so easy target.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Nah, and the other thing as well is if perpetrators, if these people see that the house, because they will see what the house and the environment in the home is like, and if they see that the children actually don't get a fucking say, well, that makes those children prime targets, because those children don't get a say. The parents are off over here doing their own thing, so really you didn't fucking have a chance, really.
No, and it carries on. I mean, I'm glad I left home at 15. But there's so many memories of just violence, Sexual abuse is a form of violence.
Yeah.
It's destroying someone's mana. So yeah, but for me, the aha moment, or when I changed, was just I was in this religious home, putting on this brave face, trying to help the community.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, I was this twisted person. I had a secret addiction to pornography. I had this addiction to pornography that was just like, through the roof. I was looking at it, seven times a day, just to keep my fix debt. Because for me, when you've been abused or awoken to sex at such an early age, that was my safe place.
Yeah.
There was that feeling, feeling good, even though someone else is trampling on your mana.
Yeah.
It was still better than being humiliated and getting a hiding. So not realizing that I took that into my adulthood and had that addiction. Lying, I lied a lot to survive.
Yeah.
And so when I met my best friend, who's now my wife, she challenged that whole freaking narrative.
Aye.
She's a strong mana wahine. I'm from Ngāpuhi.
Yeah, yay! Yay! Yeah.
And we were just friends. Like, obviously, I had so many trust issues. I got into the barbering scene because I wanted to help men, and all my boys were, doing the thing, selling, locked up. And I just started cutting hair because I've always loved hip hop. And when I started cutting hair, I realized that fuck, we're all more alike. Like, for some reason, when men sit in the chair, they just start talking.
Like a bit of a counselling thing,
bro?
And
it just comes with it. Like, I think because you're trusting someone to make you look good. Yeah. And so you then trust them with, a bit of your mum, like. And you
can be vulnerable,
You can be vulnerable. And I've always been vulnerable and shared my story about being abused, sexually abused. And you'd be surprised how many men have experienced it, have gone through that. Yeah. But society has taught us men to shut up, harden the fuck up, and be a man. Yeah. So when you don't heal that shit, sadly, it just transmits onto our tamari, our partners. And so when we get it all the time, people will ask us, why do you work with perpetrators, people who perpetrate violence? I'm of the belief that they were once victims themselves. Yeah. No one's born wanting to bloody trample someone else's money. That's been bought. Someone's twisted that shit.
Embedded it.
And that's what we have. And so that ain't gonna stop. The system hasn't helped. And for me, growing up and visiting my dad in men's prison throughout my childhood, I was a little kid that wished my dad came out, changed, and be the person. Yeah. But the system fucking failed him. And so that's what's led me to us to this kaupapa.
Tell us a bit about this kaupapa.
Me and my wife, we talk a lot on our couch. We're not very social people. I'm quite an introvert. And I was just talking to her about some of the stuff that Mum had gone through, and she just said to me, "She's not your fucking rehab." And then it just stuck, like that phrase. It resonated because that was the story of my life. Watching my mum take back my father, giving him a chance after chance, hoping and believing that he would change, but she never had the right tools. Rescuing him, hoping that he would change, pray that he would change. That prayers. I mean, I believe everyone should. Prayer is good for you yourself,
Yeah.
but you need to go out there and bloody do the work. Like
Yeah.
get up off your knees and do the work.
Yeah.
You know?
Put in the mahi.
Put in the mahi. And so it's the story of my life. She's on your rehab. For us, it's because this is real. This is not fabricated. This ain't made up. This is
Yeah.
like the story of my life. This is my experience, my lived experience. That's the kaupapa. It's when you look at, yes, men get abused too. We know that. I'm a victim of that.
Yeah.
But we can't deny the fact that women, majority of our wahine, for too long, have been subjected to violence and angry men who don't know how to navigate their emotions. So I don't believe a lot of our tane are angry. I think anger is good, using it, you know, to change the world. Like, I'm so angry with the way the system is, like, let's fucking change it.
Yeah.
Change the narrative. But when you start taking their anger out on our kids who are vulnerable and our partners who only want to support you and encourage you, that's when it's wrong. And for a lot of times, I believe our tane are just grieving still. Like for me, realizing when my mum passed away from cancer, I could be angry. Part of me, the anger surfaces up, like, fuck, you know, why did you do this? And all those questions come.
Yeah.
But then it's like I'm grieving my childhood. Underneath the anger is the grief that I was so powerless to help my mum. But what I can do now is change that narrative for my kids
For your kids.
and for our community, you know. By putting myself out there, this is, you know, humiliation is like a massive part of my childhood that I struggled with, shame. And here I am telling the whole world, like, hey, I know what it feels like to have a dick up your ass, you know, being raped.
Yeah.
There's shame there, but it's like, I will do this for the kids that are still. My story, our story, are only teardrops
Yeah.
in the massive ocean of domestic violence or family violence. So yeah.
So what do you guys do with Shares Not Your Rehab? How does that work?
So for us, it's the barber shop. I mean, for me, the barber shop, it's not, you know, linked to a church or a sports club. And for a lot of us men, we need to unwind by having a quick drink, and then we start
Beverage.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
bevy.
A quick beverage, and then we start feeling those emotions. But
Yeah.
the power of the barber shop, men just come in and talk, and you'll be surprised. Like, you know, I've always been triggered by men in suits. It has, you know,
Yeah.
just for some reason, guys in suits just seem powerful.
Corporate-y.
Yeah. You know, not from where I come from.
Yeah.
But when you're a barber, you have access to these men, and when you start talking, you realise,
Yeah.
pain,
Ain't no
shame,
different.
does not discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how wealthy you are or what colour your skin is.
No, that's mean. That's mean. So we too from here. I know tonight's a big night for you fellas.
Yes, we've been writing a book for the last 2.5 years, and we didn't just want to write a book on my story. It's not a memoir. It is a memoir, but it's a conversations with men that I've had been privileged to have access to over the last decade as a barber.
Mean.
And so we're giving tools, and I know, you know, not one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
But these are just ways that I've overcome a traumatic childhood, and for me, I want to, because coming from South Auckland to Christchurch, not having many brown people around you, and the only influences that you've seen on TV were the All Blacks. They gave us kids who grew up in the hood, who came from nothing, a different window to life.
Yeah.
My hope is that this book gives our kids in our neighbourhood a different window to life, that it is possible to heal, it is possible to create your own narrative if you've come from abuse, trauma, family violence. So yeah, tonight's our book launch. We're releasing it out to the public tonight. It'll be in stores, all stores around New Zealand on Friday.
Fuck, mean.
Yeah, thank you. But for us, yeah, our mahi is, we open up our barber shop once a month, sometimes twice a month, to free group therapy sessions. So in Christchurch alone, the wait to see a therapist or a counsellor is 3 months.
Yeah.
And so, and for a lot of our people, it's so expensive, you know, to see a therapist costs $100, $150. That's flipping a week's groceries.
Yeah.
That's for a lot of our whānau. And so for us, we've collaborated with organisations called Aviva, who's like Women's Refugee in Christchurch, and Mapu Maya, and they provide us free counselling. So every guy that comes to our therapy group sessions have access to counsellors and therapists who are Pasifika and Māori for free. And
Wow.
these guys will just rock up wherever you need them, whether it's in your house or at McDonald's or wherever. And it's beautiful, it's just getting them in to start talking.
Fuck, that's awesome.
But yeah, it's always packed out, the shop's always packed out. People had like, you know, opposing gangs in here and
Yeah.
guys in suits and, you know, doctors and all that stuff, and it's just like, here we are. Let's humanise us.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's the third problem.
that's so awesome, bro.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share?
No.
Banged it on the head, eh, bro?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No.
Love your mahi.
On behalf of CWK, we just want to thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your journey with us. I think it's fucking awesome, inspiring, and we'll be at the book launch.
Thanks, sis.
All right.